And this is something that I think is moving more and more people. I'm glad to see that it's moved, what are there, 4, 8, 12, 14, 16 of us here today, and hopefully in the future, dozens more, and then scores more and hundreds more will come out and join us. We're here because of the fact that our Senator McCaskill, who many of us have supported, I imagine many of us here voted for her last November, has essentially dodged one of the critical issues of the day, an existential threat, climate change. And I want to go through briefly a little bit of the history of our interaction with Senator McCaskill around this issue. And it's mainly at this point been through interaction with her staff, including Cindy, who's coming out to visit with us. So thank you for being out here, Cindy.
This is our new staffer, Corey Husak.
Hi, Corey. Thank you for being here. And we came to Senator McCaskill's office in January and visited with Cindy, and we were back again in February and talked with another staffer. I'm sorry, I don't remember her name. And then we were here in March and spoke with Allison. And on each of these 3 occasions, we brought information about climate change, and we asked what the senator was proposing to do about this. Now, the information we brought, there's tons of good information about climate change that's out there. You can read scientific journals and all kinds of good information. We didn't try to bring everything, but we brought 2 main documents, or links to them, since one of the documents is about 1,200 pages long. We didn't bring the whole document, but we brought the quadrennial review of the Pentagon. This is a major assessment the Pentagon does every 4 years of our national security. And we also brought with us a draft of the National Climate Assessment. It's an interagency report put together by 240 scientists from 13 federal agencies. And these were 2 of the most compelling documents that we saw indicating the urgent need to address the climate. And I'm just going to share a couple of things from these. The quadrennial review, as I say, this is also a massive document, but the relevant section indicates climate change and energy are 2 key issues that will play a significant role in shaping the future security environment. Although they produce distinct types of challenges, climate change, energy security, and economic stability are inextricably linked. Assessments conducted by the intelligence community indicate that climate change could have significant geopolitical impacts around the world, contributing to poverty, environmental degradation, and further weakening of fragile governments. Climate change will contribute to food and water scarcity, will increase the spread of disease, and may spur or exacerbate mass migration. While climate change alone does not cause conflict, it may act as an accelerant of instability or conflict, placing a burden to respond on civilian institutions and militaries around the world. That's coming from the Pentagon, not from, some tree huggers. So this next thing I'm going to read is from the executive summary of the National Climate Assessment draft. This came out in January. They haven't come out with the final version yet, but this was, again, put together over the course of years by 240 top scientists working for our government, for us, the taxpayers. And they said in this executive summary, climate change is already affecting the American people. Certain types of weather events have become more frequent and or intense, including heat waves, heavy downpours, and in some regions, floods and droughts. Sea level is rising, oceans are becoming more acidic, and glaciers and Arctic sea ice are melting. These changes are part of a pattern of global climate change which is primarily driven by human activity. Many impacts associated with these changes are important to Americans' health and livelihoods and the ecosystems that sustain us. I won't go on and read more. There's much more to be read in this document, but the bottom line is that the top scientists working for us, the taxpayers, have said this is happening now. It's not something that might happen. It's something that is happening now, and it's affecting our lives. It's affecting our lives in ways that are costing us dollars, they're costing us our health, that are threatening the ecosystem. And anybody who lived through the summer of 2012 here in the part of this massive heat wave and drought that we lived through. Anybody who saw the fires in Colorado, or who saw the massive superstorm Sandy hitting the Northeast, or saw the tornado that hit Joplin a couple of years ago, or the massive tornado that hit Moore, Oklahoma just this week, has to recognize that this is real stuff and it's really happening now and it needs to be addressed. So when we made these repeated requests, we asked, what does the senator propose to do about it? Cindy sent us back an email, and I don't think I'm taking this out of context. The email said, at this time, Senator McCaskill does not have a specific agenda involving climate change, and she won't have one beyond what Allison spoke to you about last week. And what Allison spoke to us about was the fact that she was supporting the Keystone XL pipeline. And that was the only thing she could say about where the senator stood on climate. So we are deeply concerned. I want to invite my colleague, Mariana Morales, to come up here now and share some more information with you. This is regarding some key numbers that need to be a focus of concern. So Mari, if you can come up and share that.
Hi everybody, good to be here. There are no passengers in Spaceship Earth, we are all crew, and that is why we're here today, because we hold ourselves and our elected representatives accountable for the fate of our precious planet, and which is right now being threatened with the most devastating environmental problem ever, and that is climate change. We are very frustrated that officials acknowledge climate change but are doing nothing about it. I'm by no means an expert in climate change, but I can count. And when you look at carbon emissions and global temperature increases, the numbers are pretty clear. We are putting too much carbon into the atmosphere. This is heating our planet and changing our climate, and we are all going to struggle to adapt. According to the Copenhagen Accord, paragraph 1, global temperature increase should be kept below 2 degrees Celsius, which is about 3.6 Fahrenheit. We must adhere to these recommendations and hold the increase in temperature below 2 degrees Celsius. We've already raised the average temperature of the planet by about 0.8 degrees, causing a third of summer ice in the Arctic to melt, making the oceans 30% more acidic and the air wetter. While oceans are rising, we're creating more floods and hurricanes in some parts and more droughts in others. We're already in trouble. So a 2 degrees Celsius increase has to be the limit. So how much carbon dioxide can we continue to pour into the atmosphere to stay within those 2 degrees Celsius? 565 gigatons. How much carbon is already contained in the coal, oil, and gas reserves of the fossil fuel companies? In other words, how much carbon are we planning to burn in the short term? 2,795 gigatons. That is 5 times as much. This was reported by the Carbon Tracker Initiative, which is a team of financial and environmentalist analysts that are trying to educate investors about the risks of climate change so that they, can make smart choices in their stock portfolio. So once again, these are not numbers provided by tree huggers. So 2,795, that's 5 times higher than the amount estimated to raise the temperature by 2 degrees Celsius. Which means that we are ready, we have everything set up to heat up this planet way more than 2 degrees Celsius. And frankly, this is very, very disturbing. And I want to know what we are going to do about this. Senator McCaskill, she has no climate change agenda, and she's not going to have one. So is she seriously proposing that we just sit back and burn all these fossil fuel reserves and continue to search for and develop and invest our money in even more fossil fuels, just continue to build oil pipes so we can keep on drilling, and let's not stop there, let's just keep on fracking for natural gas and mining and exploding for coal, just keep heating our planet 1 degree at a time. Does Senator McCaskill think that we can't do better than that? Germany, on one sunny Saturday, managed to generate almost half of its power from solar panels. Germany can, but we can't. Exxon CP Rex Tillerson told Wall Street recently that Exxon is going to spend $37 billion a year, I repeat, $37 billion a year through 2016, searching for more oil and gas. Why can't some of that money be used for energy efficiency and renewable energy? The money's there. Why can't we choose to invest? I repeat, why can't we choose? Because we have the choice to invest in what is best for us and our planet. Invest primarily in energy efficiency and renewable energy. After all, we already have way more fossil fuels in our hands that we should be burning in the first place. Why can't we tax carbon emissions, just like we pay for our trash to be collected every week? I understand that time and resources are very limited, that we all have to prioritize. That big issues like climate change and unemployment are big problems that are difficult to solve. And yet, climate change is at the top of my list. And if you live on planet Earth, it should be at the top of your list too. So let's choose energy efficiency and renewable sources and put the brakes on global warming. Thank you.
Invite Laura Wacker to come up right now and talk about real security.
Watch out, don't get run over.
Yeah, I better.
Hi there, everybody. I would just like to talk a little bit about the security of the United States. We spend a lot of money. Over 40% of all military expenditures come from the United States. And supposedly, that is to keep our nation safe. And we spend more than the next 12 nations put together for military expenditures. And most of those are our allies already. So, in that regard, our nation thinks that spending money on military is what makes us safe. I think what makes this nation powerful is that we have a lot of resources. We're able to feed ourselves. We don't need to import food from other countries. We have enough water to supply our nation with very good drinking water. And those are the things that we are ruining with these policies on energy. We don't have clean air anymore. We don't have clean water anymore. And we are starting to ruin our food supply. These are real security issues. If we can't take care of ourselves with our own resources, then we're going to be in a predicament. That's why other countries look up to us. We have the ability to feed and have clean water and have clean air here. I mean, this is a great nation of resources. And we are in the process of destroying our resources. And this Keystone XL, the fracking that's going on in Canada is destroying Canada, but it's also going to affect us. And we should not endorse the Keystone XL, because what the oil is that's coming through that pipeline is destroying North America. And we're part of North America. And what happens to Canada is going to trickle down to us. And especially in Western Canada, where the fracking is using a large number, I don't have the exact number in my head, and I'm not going to look on my paper for it, but the water resources that are used in fracking is tremendous. And the water resources that are used for fracking, that water's gone. Basically, they jet it into the well. 80% of it stays down there. 20% that comes back up is totally polluted and has to be disposed of. It cannot be reused in our water supply. And for the Western nations in the United States, this is a horrible number for them, because they're planning on that water use. And the more that gets taken out and not reused, the more jeopardized we are as a country. And I would really like Claire McCaskill to start thinking about my welfare and my safety and the safety of this nation and putting the money where it is needed, and that is in our own resources. The money that we spend on wars in other countries, who is profiting from that? It's not me. You know, I feel less safe because we have spent that money on foreign wars. And I would appreciate Claire McCaskill taking a look at how she can make me safer, and all of you as well. Thanks.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Laura. And I want to once again thank all of you who've come out here today to join in this effort to bring attention to a very, very critical issue that is frankly underreported in our media. And for some reason, they bring us the bad news so often about the disasters, but they don't get to the why behind it. Why are we experiencing disasters? And not all disasters are due to human causes. Many of them are natural events, but certainly what we've been doing is exacerbating the situation, and we need to address that as much as we need to bring relief to those who've been made homeless by Superstorm Sandy or by the Moore tornado or by the fires in Colorado who burned so many homes and things like that. We also need to get to the root causes, and that's why we're here today. And I want to thank Cindy and Corey for coming out here and being with us and listening to our concerns. And I know they will take these back to Senator McCaskill. We are going to, in a couple moments, share with you some cards that over 300 constituents have filled out expressing their concerns, and a petition as well that has quite a few names on it. But I think the key thing that we want to say is that we would like to have the opportunity to sit down with Senator McCaskill face to face. Not necessarily all of us sit down with her, but a delegation from Mid-Missouri Peaceworks and from some of the allied organizations we work with, and sit and talk with Senator McCaskill and make sure that she understands where we're coming from. We don't want to attack her. We're not antagonistic towards her. We're not your Tea Party, hate the Democrat kind of people. We're essentially people who feel that she should be on our side. I remember some of her ads that have said she was on our side. And I think if she is on our side, then she's going to address the climate change issue. She's going to recognize, as Mari pointed out so clearly, that all of the fossil fuels we have now can't be burned, and there's not a reason to continue to explore for and develop the infrastructure for the development of more fossil fuels. It just doesn't make sense. And one of the things about investment, when you make an investment, you don't plan to use that for a few weeks or a few months. You plan to use it for decades. So if they build the Keystone XL pipeline or the Flanagan South pipeline that is going to be built or is proposed to be built across the state of Missouri to carry tar sands oil across our state, what we're going to see is infrastructure in place that the people who built it and invested in it intend to make money on for decades and decades to come. Pipelines, as we saw with this Exxon pipeline down in Arkansas that leaked a couple months ago and caused such a mess down there, they're in place 60 years after they were put in place and still being utilized. And the intention of people who want to build Keystone XL or Flanagan South is to build these things and use them for decades to come. And we would like to sit and talk with Claire McCaskill about why it makes sense to invest this money instead in energy infrastructure that will be climate friendly and reduce our fossil fuel consumption rather than energy infrastructure that will exacerbate the problem. And investing in more offshore drilling, more coal mining, more oil fracking, more gas fracking, more tar sands, more refineries, more pipelines, more export terminals, all of these kinds of investments essentially are our ticket to exacerbated and much worse climate change in the future. And we significant portion of the people in our community feel the opposite's what's needed. What's needed is investment in a climate future that works for us, for our kids, for our grandkids, and those who come after us. At this point, I'd like to share with you the cards that I believe 314 of our fellow citizens, as well as all of us here, have signed, addressed to Senator McCaskill. And I want to invite Jean Blackwood to come up. She's initiated an online petition and has some of the initial signatures from that petition.
Thank you, Mark. In just less than a week's time, I was able to put an online petition up and received over about 169 signatures from around the state. Not everyone from Missouri who is a constituent could be here or could sign these cards. So this gave the other people an opportunity to participate, and I'd like to share that with you then.
Cindy, did you want to say anything to
I just
folks?
want to thank you guys for coming, and we'll make sure that we get this information out to the center.
We appreciate that, and if you could pass on our request that when she's in the state at her earliest convenience, we would really appreciate the opportunity to sit down and visit with her, and if her staff could get back with us to let us know if that is feasible, and if so, when, we can then try and carve out that time to visit with her, and we'd love to hear back from you on that.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I want to thank all of you again for being out here, and want to just indicate that there are lots of opportunities to participate in what we're doing on an ongoing basis. And if any of you